Hi my dear, this is Maria again. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you are doing well. Usually I show you pictures of great actresses in my videos, but today I want to tell you a story about an actress that you probably know, Kira Gold. She is now a star, but she had to start from nothing one day. Let me tell her story. Kira had always been a creature of the city, her days spent in the bustling streets of Hollywood, navigating the maze of auditions and meetings that came with the territory of being an up-and-coming actress. She was used to the constant hum of traffic and the ever-present glow of neon lights, not the eerie silence and shadowy paths of the woods. Yet here she was, lost and disoriented, her GPS having apparently decided to take the day off. The towering trees loomed over her, casting a dappled pattern of light and dark on the ground that danced as the leaves rustled in the gentle breeze. The more she drove, the more she felt the tendrils of panic squeezing tighter around her chest. The once familiar road had morphed into a labyrinth of unmarked dirt tracks, each one looking more ominous than the last. The GPS on her phone had lost signal hours ago, leaving her to rely on the printed map she'd stuffed into her glove compartment in a moment of old-school optimism. But with every turn she took, the roads grew narrower and the landmarks more obscure, until the map was nothing but a crumpled mess of hope in her trembling hand. Her heart raced as she checked the clock on the dashboard for what felt like the 100th time. The shooting was scheduled to start in just half an hour, and she still couldn't find the elusive Studio 13. This was it, her big break, the chance to prove herself in a lead role that could catapult her from the realm of struggling hopefuls to the dizzying heights of stardom. Her entire career hinged on this one moment, and she was about to blow it by getting lost in the middle of nowhere. Kira had prepared meticulously for this casting. From the moment she woke up, she had been meticulously groomed and styled. Her nails were a perfect shade of Hollywood red, her hair had been curled into soft waves that framed her face just so, and she had even chosen her outfit with the utmost care, a vintage blouse and tailored slacks that screamed leading lady. The hat on her head was not just a fashion statement, but a calculated risk to stand out from the crowd of other actresses vying for the same role. Every inch of her was a testament to her dedication and professionalism, and she had rehearsed her lines until they were as much a part of her as her own thoughts. Her agent had assured her that the studio was easy to find, but as the clock ticked closer to the dreaded 0 hour, she couldn't help but feel like she'd been set up for failure. "It's just around the next bend," she murmured to herself, trying to keep the tremor of fear out of her voice. Yet as she turned another corner, all she found was more trees, more silence, and a growing sense of dread that all those efforts were about to go down the drain. Kira slammed her hand against the steering wheel in frustration, the sharp pain, a grim reminder that this was not a nightmare she could wake up from. And then, as if the universe had decided she'd had enough, she saw a flicker of movement through the trees. A figure in neon green emerged into the clearing up ahead. Kira's eyes widened with hope. It was a jogger, a sign of civilization. She honked the car horn, the sound echoing through the woods like a gunshot. The jogger's head snapped up, and she could see the look of surprise on his face even from a distance. He paused, wiped the sweat from his brow, and started to jog towards her. As he drew closer, Kira felt a wave of relief wash over her. He was a friendly-looking young man with a smile that was as bright as the neon on his workout gear. "Hello, Ms. Kira Gold," he called out, his voice carrying the warmth of recognition. "I'm a fan of yours. What brings you out here?" Kira's eyes widened even further. "How do you know who I am?" she asked, her voice shaking. "I saw you in your movie Prettier Than Paradise and absolutely loved your acting," he replied, his smile growing wider. "You're Kira Gold, right?" Indeed, Kira had fans, and she felt a strange mix of flattery and fear at being recognized in such a desolate place. She nodded, trying to keep her voice steady. "Yes, I'm Kira. I'm supposed to be at Studio 13 for a shooting, but I got lost." The jogger's expression turned sympathetic. "Don't worry," he said, his tone reassuring. The studio is not far at all, and if you want, I can get in your car and explain the road as you drive." After a short hesitation, Kira agreed eagerly, feeling a rush of relief. Having someone who knew the area could mean the difference between making it on time and missing her big opportunity. She unlocked the door and the jogger, who introduced himself as Alex, hopped in. He gave her simple directions that she found surprisingly easy to follow. The woods grew denser, but with Alex's guidance, the fear that had clutched at her heart began to loosen its grip. Then suddenly, as they rounded a sharp bend, Studio 13 appeared before them as a mysterious apparition. The building was shrouded in a thin veil of mist, making it seem as if it had materialized out of the very fabric of the woods. The structure was unlike anything Kira had ever seen before, part modern architecture, part ancient ruin, with ivy-covered stones that seemed to have been there for centuries. Above the arched entryway, the number 13 was carved in gleaming metal, almost as if it were a gateway to another world. Alex's eyes twinkled with excitement as he spoke of the studio's storied past. "This place is like a sanctum for Hollywood's elite," he said, his voice filled with wonder. "So many movie stars have walked through those doors. Some say it's haunted by the ghosts of their past performances." Kira couldn't help but chuckle nervously, trying to shake off the lingering sense of unease that had plagued her since she'd arrived in the woods. "Well, let's hope the ghosts are good with directions," she said, her attempt at humor sounding forced even to her own ears. Alex grinned. "They might be for you," he said. "But for now, let's get you inside. I'd hate you to miss your moment because of a little detour." The gates to the studio swung open automatically as if inviting them in, and Kira's car rolled to a stop in front of the grand entrance. She looked over at Alex, who was beaming with excitement. "Thank you so much," she said sincerely. "You've been a lifesaver." "It's no problem," he replied, his eyes lighting up at the mention of the studio. "But, I don't suppose there's any way I could come in with you, is there?" Kira felt a momentary flicker of doubt. After all, she barely knew this stranger. But his kindness had brought her here just in the nick of time, and she didn't want to leave him out in the woods with the creeping shadows. "I'm so glad to be here," she said. "And yes, of course, each candidate is allowed to bring one person with them." Alex's face broke into a wide smile, and he practically bounced out of the car. "Seriously?" he said. "You're the best, Kira." They approached the studio together, and the anticipation in the air was palpable. The cast and crew bustled around, setting up lights and equipment, their voices a comforting reminder that she was back in her element. Kira took a deep breath, savoring the familiar scent of grease paint and the electric buzz of creativity. Once inside, the reality of her situation hit her full force. She was late, and there was no way to hide it. The director, a stern-faced woman named Elena, looked up from her clipboard as they entered the makeshift waiting area. Her eyes narrowed at the sight of Kira, but before she could say anything, Alex spoke up. "Hi, I'm Alex. I'm here with Kira. She got a bit lost on the way." Elena's expression softened slightly. "Ah, yes," she said, checking her watch. "You're just in time." She turned to Kira. "You can go straight to wardrobe. We're ready to start rehearsals." Kira's heart soared with relief. "Thank you," she murmured, shooting Alex a grateful look. He winked back at her. As they parted ways, with Alex taking a seat in the waiting area and Kira heading backstage, she couldn't help but feel that fate had played a strange hand in bringing her here today. Who knew that a chance encounter in the woods would lead to such an unexpected adventure? And as she slipped into the costume that would transform her into a character from another world, she knew that she had Alex to thank for this rare glimpse behind the curtain of her own life's script. But the reality of her situation soon crashed down upon her when she stepped into the cavernous soundstage. Hundreds of other hopefuls milled about, all dressed to the nines and radiating a fierce determination to win the role that could change their lives. Kira's stomach twisted into a knot as she scanned the sea of faces. She knew that to stand out, she had to be more than just good. She had to be unforgettable. The air was thick with the scent of competition as the actresses whispered to each other, sharing tips and casting sly glances in her direction. Each one had their own secret weapon, their own twist on the character that they hoped would set them apart. Kira took a deep breath and reminded herself that she was not just one of them. She was Kira Gold, the girl who had fought her way up from obscurity, and she had a fan in her corner who believed in her. Her eyes searched the crowd for any sign of what was expected of her, any clue that might give her an edge. The director's words echoed in her mind. It's all about making a memorable impression. And now, with the possibility of seeing the hundreds of other actresses who were competing with her, she was ready to do anything, and she meant anything, to stand out. Her heart racing, she approached the director's chair where Elena was reviewing the day's schedule. "Ms. Gold," Elena called out, her voice sharp as a knife. "You're on in 5, don't waste my time." Kira nodded, her nerves a tangible force propelling her forward. She knew she had to leave a mark on this room to make everyone remember her name. As she took her place under the hot lights, she felt a surge of adrenaline that washed away the last remnants of doubt. This was her moment, and she was going to seize it. The scene called for a dramatic entrance, and she was ready to give it her all. But as she took a deep breath to begin, she spotted Alex in the audience, his neon green attire, a stark contrast against the darkened rows of seats. He gave her a thumbs up and a wide smile that seemed to say, "You've got this." Her performance was a whirlwind of passion and precision, the words of the script coming to life in a way she'd never experienced before. She danced through the dialogue, her movements fluid and expressive, her eyes shining with an intensity that seemed to burn through the very fabric of the scene. And when it was over, she knew she had left nothing behind. The room was silent for a beat, and then it erupted to applause. Elena nodded approvingly, scribbling something onto her clipboard, and Kira felt a swell of pride. But she also knew that this was just the beginning of what would be a long, arduous battle for the role of a lifetime. And as she took her bow, she vowed to give every ounce of herself to ensure that she emerged victorious. Elena called for the next actress, and Kira made her way back to the waiting area, where Alex was still seated. His eyes shone with excitement, and he clapped enthusiastically. "You were amazing!" he exclaimed. "They're going to cast you. I just know it." Kira couldn't help but smile at his unbridled enthusiasm. "Thank you," she said, her voice a little shaky from the adrenaline. "You really helped me out today." Alex waved her thanks away. "It was nothing," he said. "But I've got to admit, watching you up there was pretty cool. It's not every day I get to see a Hollywood star in action." They chatted for a few minutes, Kira sharing her journey into acting and Alex talking about his love for the movie industry and his dreams of one day working behind the scenes. It was a strange sort of camaraderie forged in the crucible of shared passion and the chance encounter that had brought them together. Finally, Elena emerged from the soundstage, her expression inscrutable. She scanned the room until her gaze fell on Kira and she beckoned her over. "Very good, Ms. Gold," she said, her voice cool and professional. "Thank you for your casting. We will be in touch." Kira's heart skipped a beat. Was that a dismissal or a goodbye? Before she could ask, Elena had turned and disappeared back into the studio. She looked at Alex, her eyes wide with hope and uncertainty. "What does that mean?" she whispered, her voice barely above a murmur. Alex squeezed her hand reassuringly. "It means you've made an impact," he said. "And in this business, that's more than half the battle." With a final nod of thanks, Kira gathered her things and walked back through the woods with Alex. The shadows didn't seem quite intimidating now, with the glow of the studio lights still lingering in her mind. They talked about their favorite movies and actors, the magic of cinema, and the serendipity that had brought them together on this fateful day. As they approached the place where Alex had first appeared, the sun was beginning to set, casting a warm glow over the woods. Kira felt a sense of peace settled over her, a feeling that she had not just survived this ordeal, but had perhaps even gained something from it. "Thank you for walking me out," she said as they reached the edge of the woods. "I couldn't have done it without you." Alex shrugged, his smile never fading. "It's the least I could do," he said. "And who knows? Maybe I'll see you again under the lights of Studio 13. They parted ways with a promise to stay in touch, and Kira watched as Alex disappear into the foliage. She climbed into her car and started the engine, feeling a strange mix of excitement and trepidation. The road ahead was uncertain, but she knew that she had just taken the first step on a journey that could lead her to the stars. As she drove away from the studio, the woods grew denser once more, swallowing the studio's lights and sounds until all that remained was the quiet hum of her engine and the steady beat of her heart. But she was not the same girl who had ventured into the woods earlier that day. No, she was Kira Gold, the woman who had faced her fears and come out the other side, ready to conquer Hollywood. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with a tapestry of oranges and pinks, she couldn't help but feel that the universe had aligned in her favor. This was just the beginning of a new chapter in her life, and she was ready to write her name in the stars. In the weeks that followed, Kira's career took off like a rocket. The role she had auditioned for at Studio 13 was hers, and the film went on to become a sleeper hit that had everyone talking. Her performance was hailed as a revelation, and she found herself on the receiving end of praise and accolades she had only dreamed of. But amidst the glitz and glamour of her newfound fame, Kira never forgot the importance of her fans. She knew that it was their support and belief that had brought her here, and she made it a point to thank them at every opportunity. She attended fan meet and greets, signed autographs with a smile, and even went out of her way to respond to their messages on social media. And it wasn't just her career that had changed. Kira had made a true friend in Alex. He had become her confidant, her guide through the often treacherous waters of Hollywood. His unabashed enthusiasm and love for the art of filmmaking kept her grounded, reminding her of why she had started acting in the first place. The two of them grew closer as she began to navigate the complex world of stardom. Alex was there for her when the reviews were harsh, and he was the first person she called when she received her first award nomination. His belief in her had been the spark that had lit the fire of her success, and she knew that without him, she would still be wandering those woods, lost and afraid. But the most important lesson Kira learned from her experience was that no one truly succeeds alone. It was the fans who watched her movies, the directors who believed in her talents, and the friends who supported her that had made her dreams come true. The career of Kira Gold was a testament to the power of human connection, to the magic that could happen when someone took the time to recognize her, not just as a celebrity, but as a person. And as she stood on the red carpet, the paparazzi flashing their cameras and the screams of adoration filling the air, she looked into the crowd and saw Alex, his neon green hat, a beacon in a sea of black tie attire. He waved proudly, and she knew that no matter where her journey took her, he would always be there, a reminder that she was never truly lost, as long as she had people who believed in her. The morale of the story was clear. In the end, it was the fans who had the power to make or break a star. And as she waved back, her smile genuinely and heartfelt, she made a silent vow to always remember the people who had helped her find her way out of the woods. Kira's first major red carpet event was a whirlwind of flashing lights and eager interviews, but she managed to keep her cool, thanks in large part to Alex's calming presence. He had scored an internship at a production company, and his knowledge of the industry was a valuable asset to her as she began to navigate the minefield of Hollywood politics. Together, they attended glamorous parties and movie premieres, Kira basking in the limelight while Alex quietly observed from the sidelines. But even as she climbed the ladder of success, she remained humble, always taking the time to talk to her fans, to listen to their stories and share her own. Their friendship grew stronger with each passing day, a bond forged through shared experiences and a mutual love for the art of storytelling. Alex had a knack for seeing the heart of every role she played, offering her insights that often went unnoticed by the most seasoned critics. His feedback was invaluable, and she grew to trust him implicitly. But it was not all glamour and excitement. There were times when the pressure of stardom weighed heavily on Kira's shoulders, when the expectations of others felt like a cage she could never escape. But Alex was always there, reminding her that she was more than just an actress, that she was Kira Gold, the girl who had faced her fears in the woods and emerged victorious. I hope you liked this story. If you did, please drop me a like. I will really appreciate it. I also hope to see you in another video. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.